Last but definitely not least, Fawza Youssef from the Jazeera region of Rojavaya Kurdistan, who studied law at the University of Aleppo. She was previously member of TEVDEM's executive committee and co-chair of the Northern Syria Self-Administration, and is currently co-chair of the Democratic Union Party, the PYD, or PYD. Youssef is one of the founders of the women's movement Congresta and the author of the book, Why Genealogy. Please join me in welcoming Fawza.
Long live the resistance of Rojava. Good day, Rojbash. First of all, on behalf of all the peoples in Rojava, Assyrians, Arabs, Turkomans, Kurds, and also on behalf of all the women who are fighting, I would like to salute you and thank you for organizing this event here today. I would like to, on your behalf, first of all, to greet Abdullah Öcalan, Guide Öcalan, who gathered us here. On your behalf, I would like to greet him that he has been fighting for the last 50 years, and the last 25 years he has been imprisoned on an island under isolation. I come from Rojava, from northern and northeastern Syria. It's been 12 years. We are conducting a very strong resistance. Within the last 12 years, we brought many differences. We suffered a lot, but we also realized many projects, and we are now going through a very difficult process because there are all these chaos is still going, and the problems remain unsolved. Democratic confederalism for us, for the people, for the women, for the youth, for how important it is for all of us. I would like to talk about it, and I would like to give you some examples from our experience from Rojava. Indeed, the state, as much as it is brutal, we actually experience all the possible brutalities of the state. The states have divided us, our brain, our countries, our bodies, our hopes, our dreams. They were also destroyed by the states. And not only us, but all the peoples in Mesopotamia have suffered a lot from the state brutality. Therefore, it was very important, of course, to survive, to experience these difficulties. The last 12 years, we have given 12,000 martyrs. 12,000 comrades have fallen. And I can also talk about my personal experience, and I can also talk on behalf of the every people in the region. The states have divided us into 4 pieces, and within those 4 pieces we have become even smaller pieces. Arabs, Kurds, Arabs, Turks, Turks and Persians, Kurds and Arabs, Kurds and Turks. So in order to incite them against each other or incite the hatred among them, they also divided us among ourselves. It's been 100 years we have been suffering under this dirty policy. And now, currently, now we are also facing the leftovers of the state. These leftovers, it's not, there is no state there anymore, but the outcomes of the state culture which existed for such a long time remained in our brains, in our heads. So we develop an auto control. So that's how strongly we were influenced by the state and its policies. Genocide, the the states, they do not genocide anymore because we are kind of killing ourselves. We are killing our identities. We are killing our brains and thoughts and mentalities. So we suffer so much difficulties. We are under such a repression by the hands of the nation states. Now everything becomes one uniformed thing. It can be like there were no differences in the languages, no differences in mentalities, or no other cultural features. Guide Guide Öcalan, when he he offered this democratic confederalism thesis. It's not only for the Kurds, it's for the Mesopotamian people, but also for entire world. It is a manifesto for the 21st century against the nation states, against industrialism, against the sexism, against nationalism and religionism, against the scientism. In order to fight against them, democratic confederalism can be considered, seen as like the bread and water that we need to live. That's become there as value as like water and bread, because nation states in every way it's killing the free thought and freedom of expression. They they change our mentalities, they occupy our brains, they bring it under control, and consequently, they also bring our lives under their control. And eventually, our brains becomes a desert. So we don't see anything. We start to see everything black and white. The other colors in between, they just disappear. So that as the people from the region, that was the policy that we were confronted. And democratic confederalism, our the controlled mentalities, the enslaved brains of us by the nationalism and religionism, it actually liberates us. Democratic confederalism liberates our brains, our mentalities. By downsizing the state, it liberates our brains. And it's not only actually for the oppressed people, it's also very important for the people belonging to oppressors. It's not only about the people under pressure, it's a very general problem, and the solution is for everyone. It applies both for the oppressed and oppressor. So we want to create a new life, but we are on a quest how we can create this new life. The last 12 years, I can say, what we failed to do within the last 100 years, we managed to do them last 12 years. So that means once the state loses the control, all the capacities and abilities and capabilities of the society appears. So we can say the state is like a it's prevent us. It becomes like a dam in front of the capacities of the people. In our region, everything was everything had dried out. When the brains dry out, the life dries out, the geography, the landscape dries out. So we can say uh, our brains were on their deathbed. But last 12 years, on the idea of the democratic nation, we experience a revival. We and after hundreds of years, people are now studying their languages, Kurds with their own language, Arabs in their languages, and Assyrians in their languages. This revival of this culture and the idea of democratic confederalism revived these languages which were almost dead, extincted. So now these languages are like children. Day by day, they are thriving, they are improving and developing themselves. Therefore, for the first time, it is for the first time that our children, without any fear, they are going to school. It's the very first time that our children, they are not forced to deny their own mother tongues. And it is the first time in our history our children, they go to school with self-confidence, because the cultural genocide that nation states were subjecting us, it was leaving the incomplete personalities behind. So the children raised by this system, they were never being complete. They had complexes. They didn't have the proper language. They didn't have the proper personality. So Assyrians, for example, they were forcing their children to learn Arabic instead of Assyrian. But now the Assyrians are also feeling encouraged to teach their own children their own mother tongue. And also religion. It was also a problematic area. For example, Yazidi religion was not studied at school, and those belonging to this religion, they were forced to go and attend the Islamic religion lessons. After the after the system was established, it is the very first time that Yazidis, they are celebrating their fests and festivals openly without any fear. It's the first time that in a free way they are enjoying or living their own traditions. Not only the languages, but also the faith was denied by the nation states. Nation states literally equals a fascism, because if you purge all the different colors and leave only one color behind, this is literally fascism. You cannot talk about freedom. You cannot talk about right to choose. No, because they're all denied by the nation states. In that, in these matters, we actually experience historic changes in these within last 12 years. Another topic is it is decentralized state. Everything was in centered, one mind, one view, one logic, one speech, and one decision. For example, Damascus was taking all the decisions, and you have to obey those decisions. Doesn't matter if they are wrong or uh, not according to your needs, because everything was coming from the monopoly of the centralized state. But they were governing the society on behalf of the society. But there were also very little person, like I don't know how many percentage. There was only one small group of people who are in on power. They were making decisions for the entire people, entire country. The last 12 years, the previous 12 years, we in north and northern eastern Syria, from villages until the regional level, we established councils and parliaments. These councils of the towns, cities, and a regional level, on a regional level. Every council, they are in charge of making decisions relating to them and relating to their region. So, instead of all one mind, which was also a male mind, it was a big problem. And now instead, the regions and their councils are making these decisions which have direct influence on their lives in the region. It was for the first time that the councils were established in the villages. It was the first time the people of the region, they gathered and they make decisions about their own lives. It was the first time that women became part of the decision-making procedures, and the women became leaders and chairs. So, in fact, Confederalist system and nation state, the idea of nation state, of democratic nation, it's not only about decentralization of the state. It is more. It also rejects the sexism in the politics or nationalism, which requires only one nation, also rejected and changed. So, democratic nation is beyond decentralizing the state, but it also about these taboos, about these ideas created by the nation state. They were also destroyed. It's like a chain. Once you start with the one, the next one is on in order. So it's the chain of the power surrounds the women, surrounds the youth, and they suffocate them. So we start breaking these chains. Now everywhere we have councils, and not only council of people or the women or the youth, we also have the councils of universities, councils of uh, health, councils of economy, councils of education. So in every field has to be autonomous, because it is important for these fields to discuss, to create new ideas, to make new suggestions. They need a space of freedom so that they can decide about their future. Because the more centralized is the system, more that is the society. So you kill the society, you kill their choices. So now, dear friends, that's how we do it. Last years, we discussed a social contract. Social contract was discussed by the participation of all the elements of the different groups of the society. A commission was established, and we discussed how we can democratize our system. Why I'm talking about it? Because 12 years, within the last 12 years, we realized escaping or rescuing yourself from the state is not that easy. It's not only about destroying the state, but you need to reconsider everything that you were taught by the state or by the system of 5,000 years. It became like a habit. So therefore, you have to reconsider everything. We looked at it after 5 years, after the period of reconsideration. Most of the things that Some of the things that we were doing, we were like becoming like state alike. We said stop. We said stop. We have to reformat. We have to restart ourselves. We have to reshape our approach, because on a daily basis we have to reform ourselves. We have to reconsider, look, and change. Of course, because you are under constant attack. They want to suffocate you. And the state has always, a nation state has become so holy. You cannot touch anything, because anything that you want to touch or talk about becomes holy. This being holy actually puts you in a circle, it surrounds you. So to break this circle, you need power. And you need the knowledge of democracy, knowledge of democratic confederalism. That's what you need to break this circle. And every day you need to rebuild your mentality, because if you fail to do so, you will surrender eventually. After a while, you will stuck and you will not go further. That's what we realized. Therefore, we establish academies. We have hundreds of academies. Every day we go through the education, training for women, children, for the man, for the youth. We have trainings every time. This is a way to rescue ourselves from the state in our brains, from the state in our hearts. So we are actually literally fighting against ourselves to rescue and to liberate ourselves. It's not easy to create democratic confederalism. You cannot manage it. You cannot achieve it without academies. You cannot achieve it without education. And education that we're talking about, it has to be based on equality, justice, and it has to be sexism free, nationalism free. So now we have hundreds of academies. So we can have this struggle of ideology, these dinosaurs of the state that is constantly attacking us on a daily basis. We have to fight against them. You know the legend of the Prometheus, that there is an eagle comes and takes a piece of from his liver. I don't know if you know or are familiar with the story. That's what we do. That's what we do for ourselves. Every day we have to renew our liver or our hearts, because every day a piece of it is taken away from us. Other thing that we learned last 12 years as women, we saw that we cannot liberate women just by making laws or legislation. You cannot change everything through legislation or new piece of legislation or laws. You can change at a certain level, but you cannot liberate women unless you change your mentality. Therefore, it is important. We have to make our morals stronger. We have to create a more morality-based society. We have to improve our morals, which respects the freedom. Of course, law are also a piece of the state system, and it doesn't change anything. It doesn't reflect the will of the society. In that case, the laws, the legislation is actually dominates you. So we make law, it's made by us. We make laws, and then the law dominates us. We become slaves, and then uh, we organize a rebellion in order to liberate ourselves. So it's like a vicious circle. It's also crazy that we become the slaves of the things that we create ourselves. It requires a change of culture as well. A society without moral, a society without values cannot continue, cannot survive just with laws. If a society doesn't becomes politicized, if they don't take the politics in their own hands, they are confined to be slaves at the end. That's how the legal systems they turned us into these things. So what we did, we said the court shouldn't be involved in every conflict among the people. There should be a different system before the court. There should be a system that we call negotiation. So the parties, they should come together and they should be able to talk and discuss the problem, but also find a solution. So that's how it works. If a woman, if she has a problem, the problem goes to the House of Women. That's the one of first place they go. And then we go to the reconciliation level. So until before we reach the courts that were organized by the state, we have to solve our problems among ourselves. And this is a culture that we want to create. This is a part of creating the culture of democratic nation, because if it happens, if there is a state comes, it can re-establish all these existing establishments, institutions. But once you change the culture, you prevent the risk of it coming back. These are very the topics that we are dealing on daily basis. What is right? What is not right? What is better? What is not? So everyday life, it is a struggle. So what we understand also from democratic nation, it cannot be realized without self-defense. It's a very important topic. We realized that the last years freedom cannot be exist without self-defense, or morals. Morality cannot exist or cannot survive without self-defense. What we did before, we surrendered everything to the state. We expected the police, gendarmerie, and state forces to protect us. But the day ISIS came to our region, the state disappeared. Police left, soldiers left, and these people left vulnerable, without any protection. So we realized that every single person is responsible for his own her protection. This self-defense, this self-protection is very important. You shouldn't surrender it, or you shouldn't entrust it to anyone. You shouldn't entrust it with the state, or as women, you shouldn't entrust it with the men. We women, we used to say, oh yeah, I have a husband, she's gonna protect me. But once ISIS arrived, those men who were being very macho and giving bragging, being like a very masculine man, they also disappeared. They were not there to protect their women. Last year, in Haseke, ISIS attacked the city of Haseke. Probably you heard it in the news. From the prison Sinai, they targeted Haseke. On the on the TVs, there was a thing, it's gone viral. There was a woman like 60 years old, but she had her rifle on her shoulder. She said, I just, they were talking to her. She said, well, when I heard about the attack, I thought that maybe the security forces will not come here in time, so I have to go out and protect myself. So we have to protect everything. We have to defend everything. Defend our morals, defend our culture, we defend the justice, and we also need to defend ourselves physically, our bodies, because self-defense is a very important topic. Now we have committees of self-defense. So everybody is required to take training, undergo a training of self-defense, so that everybody can be responsible for their own security. So this is one of the topics that now we are focusing. Self-defense is a very actual, pressing topic. We are under the threats of the Turkish government, threat of the Syrian government, threats of the Islamists, threats of the capitalist system, and many others. So as a society, we have to be we are supposed to be able to protect ourselves against all these threats. How much time do I have? 5 minutes? Okay. So I just want to take cautions. So, regarding to the other topics, this is the shortly and briefly, this is the situation in Rojava, how we organize ourselves, how we are trying to develop our situation. Maybe it's not strong enough, not as much as we want, but as you said, it's a work in progress, and we are fighting. And this is, I'm not drawing you a picture of an ideal place to live. No, but this is the situation now we are going through. I also would like to, the confederal democratic confederalism is not something only applies for Syria or Rojava. Everyone here can adopt and apply this idea in the countries where they live. A system which is anti-government, anti-sexism, and it's libertarian. It's so we can come together under a confederal system so that we can empower each other. So this kind of events, it's very important, but it shouldn't be limited to the conferences. We have to create our networks because we need each other. We are all under attack, and we need to empower each other. Look, a very simple example from the University of Hamburg. They want to prevent us to come together. They want to prevent us gathering because they are scared of us. Because they know once we come together, we will change. We will shake their chairs. So they are really scared. And they don't want us to come together and to discuss. Therefore, we have to, first of all these institutions or the organizations uh, which believe in the power of women, youth, and society should gather together, come together. In the world, there is United Nations, right? And United Nations, forget about it. It is kind of, the word is rubbish. It's useless. They cannot create any solutions to anything, but they create more problems. Instead of solving problems, they create more problems. Therefore, we need a world democratic confederalism should be our common mutual goal. Therefore, it's important we empower our struggle, make our struggle stronger. And at the end, I want to say this. In 2022, we lost many comrades, our martyrs. They were the women who fought against ISIS, were massacred, were killed by the hands of the Turkish state. They were the heroines, they were the fighters who defeated ISIS. They were killed by the hands of the Turkish state. So we know this struggle is not an easy one. We know that we have to pay very high prices. And day by day, we face even more severe, more serious threats. But I want to make it clear. Each of us who falls in this fight raises millions of with them. Millions of people, they raise the flag they left behind. We trust in ourselves. We cannot be afraid, because the more we get afraid, the more we fear, the more slaves we will be. It's important. We cannot get scared. We cannot have fears. We have to be self-confident. We have to trust and believe in ourselves. Unless we do that, we cannot bring any progress in our society. I'm I'm saying this. It was a big mistake that University of Hamburg made, because the more they beat us, stronger we get. The more they try to intimidate us, our aspirations, our power of fight becomes more. I think in this case, University of Hamburg lost, but we won. We brought so many people, and it is their loss that they didn't give us a space for these very good discussions that we are conducting right now. It is their loss. In fact, University of Hamburg, it will be hosting, it will be witnessing an historic event like this. But as I said, they followed their narrow horizons and they did what they normally do. The and their names will be mentioned in the history in a very negative way. But we are kind of disappointed as well because we thought Germany is a country of philosophers. There are so many great philosophers born or came from Germany, and German people in the world, they actually benefited from them. But we know that German people of the world, is bigger than any authorities they have, either university or state or anything else. So we will insist on this path. We will never give up on this struggle. And once again, I would like to commemorate all the martyrs of freedom who sacrificed their lives. I would like to commemorate them, and thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you.